All right, so today we're going to jump into a world that took a much, much darker turn. A reality where an Axis victory in 1942 kicks off this half-century of what the historians there call the Great Silence. And this is the story of how that silence was finally and spectacularly broken. You know, this quote right here, it pretty much sets the stage for everything. It's from a note passed from a resistance commander to an SS officer. This land is a living thing. You are a parasite. Eventually, the body always rejects the fever. And that single idea, that even the most monstrous, unbeatable empire has a sickness inside it, that's the absolute heart of this entire story. So, where does our story start? The 1960s. After the Axis won, the world didn't exactly find peace. Nope. Instead, it just froze. It settled into this grim 50-year stalemate, an unbreakable iron world, completely locked down in a three-way Cold War. So you've got three monolithic powers who've carved up the entire globe. First up, the Greater Germanic Reich, which rules Europe and Africa with this brutal ideology and these massive, haunting buildings. Then you have the Japanese Empire, stretching all the way from India to Australia, this weird, rigid mix of ancient warrior codes and super high-tech industry. And who's caught in the middle? Fortress America, a paranoid, isolated democracy that's just hiding behind these gigantic coastal walls after being forced to sign a humiliating peace treaty. But what was it actually like to live in this world? Well, the one word that connects everything is control. Total control. You've got the Reich's People's Receiver Radio pumping out state-controlled news 24/7. You've got Japan's super strict caste system. Even in America, it's this culture of fear and intense paranoid patriotism. It was basically a technological dark age where every new invention was just another tool to tighten the government's grip. But remember that quote about the parasite and the fever? Well, that fever was starting to build. And the first crack in this supposedly unbreakable world didn't appear in Berlin or Tokyo. It appeared in the shadows right along the equator. See, the Reich saw Africa as just one big workplace continent, but they could never completely control it. In these areas they called the unconquerable zones, a guerrilla war had been simmering for decades. The fighters were known as the bushfighters, the ghost of the equator, and they were fighting a relentless war of 1,000 cuts. And every great resistance needs a hero, right? Theirs was General Kwame Zamba Asante. And get this, he wasn't just a soldier, he was a scholar, an engineer who'd been studying in London when the world collapsed. He came home and became this brilliant, almost mythical leader in the fight for freedom. And this is where it gets crazy. This one single pocket of resistance, led by this one incredible man, it was about to bring the whole thing crashing down. It wasn't going to be some massive invasion. All it took was a single spark to light the fuse. So check this out. Here's how the dominoes fell. It starts in 1968 with the Night of the Long Drums. Asante organizes this huge, synchronized uprising that just paralyzes the Reich's colonial machine. Suddenly, Germany looks weak, and that's a signal. By 75, Japan starts secretly trading with the resistance, playing both sides. Then by 82, America finally comes out of hiding, launching Promethean fire to get weapons and advisors to Asante's forces. That one act of defiance just changed the entire game. Now, this new alliance between America and the African resistance, it led to a major breakthrough. But the ultimate weapon they discovered wasn't a bigger bomb or a faster jet. It was something else, something from way out of left field, a bridge between worlds. Okay, so in their secret labs, American scientists accidentally punched a hole through to a parallel dimension, to our dimension, a world where the Allies won the war. And from our world, they received this incredible gift, a massive digital archive called the Library of the Possible. It had everything, our history, our science, our art. It was literally a complete instruction manual on how to defeat fascism because, we'd already done it. So let me ask you, you've got this archive from a whole other reality. What do you think is the deadliest weapon inside? Is it the schematics for a nuclear bomb? A blueprint for some futuristic stealth plane? What is it? Turns out the deadliest weapon wasn't a bomb. It was truth. And it was found in the most unlikely place, a high school history textbook. I mean, just imagine you're an SS officer. You've been raised to believe your victory was divine destiny. And then you read this. You learn about the full, documented horror of the Holocaust. You read about D-Day and Stalingrad, battles you were told you never lost. You see photos of your revered leaders being hanged as criminals at Nuremberg. And maybe the most devastating blow of all, you learn about a prosperous, free, democratic West Germany. It proved their entire world wasn't destiny. It was just an accident, a fluke. And with that, their whole ideology just shattered. So, armed with this psychological nuke and fueled by decades of fierce resistance, the world just barrels toward its final crisis. And this wasn't some slow, gradual decline. No, they called it the Great Dissolution. It was a rapid, cascading collapse that happened between 1989 and 1991. The whole iron world shattered in just 3 steps. Boom. Step 1, the Reich implodes. Using info from the library, American psyops brilliantly turn the SS and the German army against each other. They're literally fighting a civil war in the streets of Berlin. Boom. Step 2, a US cyber attack on the Tokyo Stock Exchange completely crashes Japan's economy, forcing them to pull back from the world stage. And finally, with its enemies in total chaos, Fortress America throws open its gates, launching Operation Liberty Anchor to fly aid and troops into a newly liberated Africa and Europe. It was over. So, after 50 years of absolute darkness, what rises from the ashes? It's not a return to the old world. It's something brand new. A new sunrise. An era that the historians of this timeline call the synthesis era.
And this synthesis culture was this incredible blend of all the best parts that survived. You had the unbelievable courage and resilience of the African resistance, the mind-blowing technology and knowledge from the library of the possible, and just the overwhelming hope of a world that had been given a second chance at life.
The ultimate symbol of this new age was something called the Orbital Peace Ring. It was a final gift designed with help from our parallel world. And this thing is not a weapon system, not at all. They call it a global sense organ. It's a network of 12 space stations that constantly watch the planet for any signs of Nazi-style arsenals being built. It provides free, clean solar energy to developing nations, and maybe most important of all, it's the main server for the library, making sure that knowledge can never, ever be censored or lost again.
And that really brings us to the final thought here, doesn't it? If a simple high school textbook from another reality could completely topple an empire built on 50 years of lies, it makes you wonder, right? What kind of power does the knowledge we hold right now in our own world truly have?